A public school in Minnesota issued an apology after a video had showed cafeteria workers at a high school throwing away hot meals of students who had outstanding student debt, and that's student lunch debt. So now they did replace them with cold lunches, but at the same time, they literally threw away hot lunches in front of their peers. So now this happened at the Richfield School District. And so they had issued an apology after a video had surfaced that showed workers disposing of the lunches of students who had unpaid debt of about $15 or more. Because nothing says America more than people throwing away good food rather than giving it to someone who can't afford it. They would rather that food be wasted than giving it to a poor person or a person who didn't pay their lunch debt. Does anybody else think that that's absolutely insane? Now, Richfield Public Schools Superintendent Stephen Yanowski talked to local NBC affiliate KARE 11 and said this: our nutrition staff inaccurately and inappropriately implemented alternate lunch. Now they're calling alternate lunch. Okay, well, so what happened? I mean, basically, a student was told in front of their peers they owed money for unpaid lunches. And so the hot lunch that they were given was taken and thrown in the garbage, and they were given a cold lunch instead. Okay, so that's incredibly wasteful. If you're trying to save money, which I assume this is the whole purpose of this is trying to cut down on costs, why would you throw away a lunch that was already there, already in a kid's hands? Why would you throw that away and replace it with something else? I don't understand that. That doesn't make sense. Why don't you just let him have the lunch? It doesn't make sense. And again, it doesn't make sense cost-wise because here you have a situation, and this happens in a lot of schools, by the way, that you have parents that have to pay for their kids' lunch, the lunch tab, right? The parents also have to pay taxes for the school. Well, why would you have to pay both when the taxes that you pay should be going to the school lunches? I mean, isn't that double taxation? Don't Republicans talk about that all the time? We don't ask the parents to pay for gas for the school buses, at least not yet. If federal law is going to mandate that we got to send our kids to school 6 hours a day with our money, then that money should also be able to be used to feed them instead of asking parents to pony up more money. And I understand there's a lot of school districts that do this because they can't actually afford to do this, which would mean that they need to find alternate ways of funding schools other than through property taxes. It'd be a difficult fix to do, or asking for more federal funding, which, of course, in this administration, can understand why they're not actually getting any with Betsy DeVos at the helm. But there should be other solutions, way other solutions. Okay. But anyway, look, here's the thing. No kid should go to hungry at school. And I understand that these kids were given, cold lunches to replace the hot lunch that just got wasted, right? But the thing is that, again, hunger at school is a serious issue. It affects learning. Numerous studies have shown that you cannot be a good student. You can't really learn a whole lot when you're hungry. Probably explains why I was terrible in high school, because I never ate the school lunches. Didn't have access to them. So now the school itself is now totally sorry that they did this whole thing wrong. They said that you're supposed to hear from a social worker or a guidance counselor that you don't have that you have a overdue bill, right? Well, the thing is, how does that help the student? When you're the student, what are you supposed to do about that? When your social worker or guidance counselor comes and says, "Oh, you can't actually have lunch. You can't have a hot lunch because your parents didn't pay up." Well, then what are you supposed to do? You're supposed to go home and you tell your parents? Tell your parents that you're poor or that they're poor? I'm sure they already know if that's the case. Now, I think one of the biggest reasons that there is lunch debt in the first place is because the parents can't afford it. That's the thing. Still, Unowski said, there are multiple failures that we had in this situation, and our job is to fix it. First and foremost, in the way that we treated our kids. We should never leave kids with the feeling they had from the experience. Now, Richfield High School principal Latanya Daniels also apologized. She said the school will do better in the future. She said, one of the things we can do is model failure with grace. We absolutely failed in this situation. Our team is working to try and rectify the mistakes we made. Now, the school district will reportedly be responsible, by the way, for paying about $20,000 in unpaid lunch bill at the end of the academic year. Now, how do you rack up that much money? It's because I think a lot of the students' parents are unable to pay because they are poor. If you end up having to pay that much, there is a problem there. So now, how messed up is it, by the way? And this goes along with the apology, where the school included a link for people to donate funds that go towards students who are unable to pay their school lunch debt. How messed up is it that we have to crowdfund for this? To crowdfund to pay off student lunch debt? And how messed up is it when we do so in a country that refuses to tax wealthy people more? Right now, we have one person that is worth more than half of the entire country, whose company, Amazon, pays zero in federal taxes. And at the same time, we have hot meals that are getting taken away from people for owing about $15. I mean, really? The IRS will not go after the rich and unpaid taxes, but we're going to go after a struggling family who owes a little more than $15. Really? Can you not see the injustice here? Look, I actually might sound calm on the outside, but I'm raging inside, furious about this. The only thing I could do here is put into the words how much our priorities in this country, and I'm saying in Washington, in the state houses, in government, like how much their priorities are off. And I don't mean just Republicans, I mean Democrats as well. The Democratic Party, for example, won't commit to a wealth tax. We got two billionaires literally buying their way into office because they're afraid of losing some of that wealth in taxation, which will be used for the betterment of society. They think that, oh no, we can do it better by giving to charity, right? We have more control over what our money does, right? But here's the thing. They'll go and they'll create their own foundations, and then they will give a bunch of money to that foundation, their own, and then write it off in their taxes and save millions of dollars. And like idiots, people will ooh and ah about how generous they. Oh my God, I can't believe Bill Gates gave so much money. But he actually made more money by giving money and saved money. It makes no sense. It makes no sense. Give me a break. No, you got to tax the rich. You actually have to tax the rich. Yes. Use the money for schools, infrastructure, healthcare, and raise the goddamn wages. There's no excuse in this country that we cannot feed everyone who is hungry. But, of course, the main reason that we don't is because there are people. It's not that we don't have the ability to do so. We do, absolutely do. But we have people in this country that want to punish poor people for being poor and to laud more gifts onto the rich simply for being rich. Does anybody else see a problem with that? There is a term. There's social Darwinism. And there's also, religious connotations to it as well. There are people who believe in that, people who are wealthy, well, they must have deserved it. They must be better than us. They must be more perfect, more godly than us. And I can't tell you how often that is not true. Not true at all. Not even close. And if you think they're better, they're hardworking, the hardest working people on the planet are often those that are struggling at the very bottom just to survive. They're struggling, they're hustling, they're doing everything they can and still can't get a break. If the world was actually just and the world was actually fair, those people would be the billionaires. And where would our current billionaires be? The ones who are lazy trust funders, well, they'd be the ones who are poor. Look, if you believe that poor people deserve to be punished for being poor, and you have no problem with taking lunch away from, people who are broke, people whose families can't afford to pay their lunch bill, well, then I have no interest in you. You're a sociopath. Simple as that. I got no time for that. But if you believe in humanity and you believe that taking care of your fellow humans, rich or poor, then hey, we can work together and we can make sure to fight for people to have access to food, healthcare, and housing, as well as a fair wage for a living wage for work, and to make sure all those things are a human right. Hey guys, hopefully you enjoyed that free video. Now I'm going to have to ask you a favor. Between the demonetization and the YouTube algorithm messing around with view counts, etc., we're having a hard time adjusting to the new YouTube reality, which is where you guys come in. See, we have a Patreon, patreon.com/TYTNation, set up to help us rely on you guys, the viewers, instead of big corporate ads. Look, you know the show. You know how I'm not in favor of big corporations anyway. So help us transition away from relying on the ad model to pay the bills and sign up to be a patron, patreon.com/TYTNation. That goes a long way to help us keep the lights on. And you guys will know that you're supporting independent, progressive media.